Hello and welcome. Today's presentation is on the collaborative case study assignment for Group 3. This assignment is submitted as part of DPA 740 Collaborative Network Governance. The group members and speakers for today are Eric Dale DeVore, Rob Gonzalez, Martin Eduardo Morales, and David Zachary Smith. In this presentation, we'll be reviewing a research collaborative effort. In the analysis, we'll be evaluating the collaborative example in the research article by using criteria and frameworks from the DPA 740 course. We will also identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to the collaborative example. Finally, we will be integrating relevant theories, models, and frameworks demonstrating how these frameworks can be useful to understand and assess this collaboration. The article chosen for the assignment is Mike White's and Mary Robson's Finding Sustainability: University Community Collaborations Focused on Arts and Health. The article focuses on community-based arts and health projects in Northern England. Several of the article themes explored include the role of collaboratives, participatory arts, social psychology, community arts, challenges in sustainability, and the broader impact of collaborative work. In the article, there was an example of the Happy Hearts Lantern Collaborative, which was a community celebration that symbolized community unity and promoted healthy living. On an annual basis between 1994 and 2006, people from Gateshead would come together and participate in a Happy Hearts Lantern Parade. Children, families, agencies, churches, and health promotion teams would come together on an annual basis to conduct a collaborative event, and there were many positive outcomes that came from that event itself. One positive impact was that it transformed the negative health and media image of the community, and it also promoted health. Additionally, the event was so successful it became a positive event being known throughout the country. Despite the major successes of the event and the popularity, it faced declining support and partnerships, leading to its closure in 2006. Although there were many positive attributes to this event and collaborative effort, the collaborative effort ultimately faced challenges in sustaining the event and momentum, and that ultimately led to the closure of the event.
Another project known as Roots and Wings used the principles of the Happy Hearts Lanterns project in positively impacting health with art. In this project, a school that was suffering low attendance, low student achievement, and high teacher turnover due to a lack of commitment, with a focus on the children and art. Artists were brought into the school, and soon their signature art room evolved into being. The children were encouraged to reflect on their emotions, and it came out in their art. The project saw a significant positive impact within its first 3 years. However, a problem soon developed in the lack of cohesion between the artists and the regular teaching staff that needed to be addressed for the project to continue. When the program was threatened with closure, the primary stakeholders and collaborators, the community, the teachers, and the artists, all came together and open communication occurred. As a result of the trust built and communal will, adjustments were made to the existing plan, and the project continued. With the early successes of the Happy Hearts Lantern Project and the sustained success of results in collaboration of the Roots and Wings project, this led to several offshoots of further studies, books, learning, and teaching regarding the positive connection between arts and the health of individuals and communities.
Ansel and Gash know that there are five variables that impact the success of collaboration. These include trust building, face-to-face dialogue, intermediate outcomes, commitment to process, and shared understanding. Each are interconnected in the collaborative process, and each serve to bolster the legitimacy of collaborative governance and produce positive outcomes for all agencies that are involved. Lack of trust among stakeholders is a common problem when connecting public agencies, nonprofits, private sector organizations, and non-governmental organizations. In order to get agencies with varying levels of expertise, funding, and access to resources or intelligence to cooperate, there has to be clear and open communication, reduction in antagonism between agencies, and valid justifications for working with one another. Face-to-face dialogue furthers this idea as stakeholder engagement requires putting faces to names in order to identify opportunities for mutual gain. It should be considered a core process of communication to break down stereotypes and barriers to communication. A shared understanding is necessary as to what can be achieved together. A common mission and vision allows for a common purpose that unites agencies and their respective actors and causes them to rise above individual differences to get the job done. Intermediate outcomes are important in that they show small successes from collaboration that keeps the process moving forward. Intermediate outcomes can be tangible outputs or intangible. Lastly, and arguably most importantly, stakeholders' commitment to the process of collaboration is a critical piece to the process of bringing people and their respective resources together to solve a problem for the general welfare of the public. Public agencies have often had a particularly weak commitment to collaboration, particularly at regional and central office. Commitment is required before even engaging in the collaborative process. Stakeholders often want to participate to make sure their unique perspective is heard, or it can be that agencies want to ensure that their unique resources are used in order to secure legitimacy for their position, to fulfill a legal mandate, or simply garner public support. Commitment to the process relies on good faith bargaining for mutual gains for all parties that are involved and have been shown to be the best way possible to achieve desirable policy outcomes. Commitment to collaboration requires a significant shift in the ideology of agencies and individual decision makers within those agencies in order to work through mutually beneficial recognition of all participants in the shared process. Commitment in of itself is a dilemma as it requires a collective agreement on willingness to accept the results of intergroup consensus, even if the outcome is not the desired outcome for any one agency. All stakeholders may never get their desired end result, but may get a livable end result for the public at large. Stakeholders must feel that deliberation will produce clear, fair, and transparent procedures that may cause conversations to go in unpredictable directions, but that any decision made will be made with integrity. Stakeholders are no longer critics of the process, but shareholders in the collective decision-making process. Networks function in public policy and public administration through inter-organizational connections. These connections allow member organizations to pool various resources, coordinate actions together, minimize shared risk, and work toward achieving a shared goal. Networks provide a more flexible organizational structure that functions across boundaries between agencies, which enhances learning, innovation, knowledge sharing, better service provision, and better responsivity to public service needs. There are 5 separate types of networks in public policy and administration. Networks can function as information sharing networks, knowledge sharing networks, resource exchange networks, capacity building networks, and service provision networks. An existing network can be more than one type of these networks. Knowledge and information exchange is very important for network governance. Exchange of information, power, and resources places various agencies in the same position to establish and maintain networks, diffuse knowledge, innovations, and best practices. Effective exchange of information are indicators of high-performing networks and enables organizations and the respective actors to have the ability to use and accomplish tasks or improve organizational knowledge. In public sector networks can be defined as a fluid mix of framed experience, values, contextual information, and expert insight that provides a framework for evaluating and incorporating new experience. While the idea of sharing knowledge is fairly straightforward, there are challenges that arise in particular to the context of networks, especially when knowledge comes in tacit and explicit forms. Explicit formal knowledge can be observed, captured, and transformed directly. It is taught in classrooms, presentations, training, and more. Tacit knowledge is harder to capture. It is complex, dependent upon context, often nonverbal, culture-specific, system-dependent, and does not codify well in translation or transferability. Obtaining tacit knowledge requires practice, familiarity, and an amalgamation of personally gained experience within a given organizational culture. Networks are built upon trust by sharing information. There is both trust and risk in this reciprocal relationship. The trust implies that each organization pulls its own weight and supports others within it. Power within networks is shared in varying ways within a network, dependent upon the actors within the network and the organization. The most common is a hierarchical organization with horizontal sharing of information between organizations. However, this information becomes increasingly siloed as one goes up the chain. Power is shared in multiple ways and there are multiple types. This includes individual power, power from the resources of an organization, and power that is derived from informal relationships. There are inherent imbalances in power both intra-org and inter-organization, which causes information sharing and management to often be lopsided, provided there is no formal way to flow decision-making capacity from one individual to another within the organization. Things that can be changed are the strength of ties, the number of participants, goal consensus, network types, social capital, density, centralization, connections, governance forms, relationships, positioning, and overall structure. Networks are rated and held accountable based upon their form, the entity as they exist, and how they interact. Networks are held accountable through legal, bureaucratic, political, and professional accountability measures. These are often varied and apply to different levels of governance, complicating network interaction, furthering power imbalances within agencies. Networks can further be held accountable through democratic accountability, legal accountability, market accountability, administrative accountability, and through accountability from the network itself. These forms of accountability can be both formal and informal in nature, but each show real pressures on the network.
Doing a quick SWOT analysis of the Happy Hearts Lanterns project, some of the strengths that jump out right away is the overwhelming public support and funding by several one-off donors. It was a solid strength to start. And having a good project model that appealed to the health of the individuals and the community drove the initial success. So we can see the strengths here of human capital, appeal to community, appeal to health, and good product that was needed in the particular area targeted. The weaknesses were that the intent going into this project was never about sustained collaborative relationships. It was always about advancing research and testing hypotheses. When they found success in their model, they should have shifted to a long-term strategy to keep the program going and help the community. As such, no long-term strategic plan was in place for secured funding, nor were the right long-term collaboration members identified and in place. While they did initially get an outpouring of community support, without the structure in place, it more or less just came together with no real leadership to guide it. The lack of internal resources to sustain the loose collaboration and necessary funding proved fatal for this project in the end. Some of the opportunities, had the proper collaboration planning been done in advance and the right members identified and selected, this project had the potential for generational growth with long-term health benefits and positive community outcomes. Some of the threats, again, not having the right members in place for the collaboration and secured funding sources could, and in this case did, cause the collapse of the project. There was no way to sustain it.
Hello, my name is Martin Morales, and I will be covering efficiency and effectiveness in the context of finding sustainability. The article there it is assigned for our group. Now, why is important identifying efficiency and effectiveness, and kind of departing from a definition is efficiency in simple terms means doing things right. So meaning you identify what needs to be done and you just make sure that it goes basically to conclusion. Process effectiveness, which is doing the right thing, means not only identify what needs to be done, but also ensuring that it's done in the right way. And for that requires additional planning to ensure that it's focus on measures, focus on results, and the right results in this case. And efficiency and effectiveness become important for White and Robson because, as they describe, after working on the project for more than 10 years, it became challenging to sustain the Happy Hearts Lantern project that they initiated. And that was for many reasons. They had difficulty receiving the same level of commitment of the people that were initially involved in the project, including, for example, some of the challenges they describe is working with the police. They were charging now something that seemed excessively on their end for the same services that they were previously provided. And it's understandable that the cost can go up, but perhaps the message was not getting across that this was intended as something of benefit for the community. And that was just one case. And other examples where they didn't have the same level of participation from those initially involved in doing some of the tasks. And when we look at the terms of efficiency and effectiveness, we're not looking only on the outcomes, but we're also looking from the planning perspective. It's identifying from the very beginning what needs to be done, but also part of it is delivering the message that why it's important to do it. And we look into public services is always about delivering the quality of public services and are basically to obtain organizational success. It's kind of balancing both what is essential from the administrative perspective, which is delivering a service, but also focusing on why it's beneficial to do it. In this case, it's connecting it back to the community.
The overall immediate goal of the project was quite successful in changing the image, hearts, and minds of a community, both literally. However, the project was short-sighted in how it went about creating its collaborative network by focusing instead on the vehicle of the project itself. The project lacked the planning necessary for a long-term collaboration. The group could have greatly increased its chances of sustaining the project if it had properly planned and laid the groundwork out first. Before beginning, they should identify and seek out the right members to be a part of their collaboration. The right members are those who share a unified vision and also have the necessary resources of funding and human capital necessary for the project. For the project, you establish a long-term commitment and funding for the project from all the members. Once the project is up and running, all key members need to have regular meetings to assess where they are as a project, evaluate if they are still aligned and on track with their overall goals, and then readjust as needed. In this way, the project would not have had to rely primarily on one-off donations to fund it.
This slide is covering Christian worldview. As noted throughout the article, some of the benefits of being engaged in community arts are, like, for example, fostering social cohesion, personal meaning, sense of identity, and it generates like a sense of well-being and strengthening kind of like the community bonds. Additionally, for example, the collective creativity in community art projects creates that shared sense of achievement and personal pride, and reinforce that aspect that the authors identify as community will. And how do these aspects align with Christian values? We have to remember that the concept of servant leadership is rooted in Christian values, emphasizing, for example, that serving others in a selfless manner. It is akin to Christians' teaching of humility and service values. Additionally, it fosters the principles of stewardship and love for one's neighbors. And by prioritizing equity, personal meaning, and community identity, for example, through the arts and health initiatives that are mentioned throughout the article, servant leaders embody Christian ideals of compassion and stewardship. Finally, when you look at doing something from the perspective of servant leadership, you are creating community bonds, and you're basically creating a supportive environment which is inclusive and reflective of the Christian values. In this particular case, again, is in the Happy Hearts Lantern project, perhaps what was missing was the concept of community bonding. Creating a sense of community was important, and that aspect was highlighted when they were trying to bring back that project. And again, it was missed at many points in time. And this brings us back again to the aspect mentioned by White and Robson, that they miss that important aspect of the community bonding. And again, aligning with the principles of management, it is important to understand what your goals are. Because when you identify that, you identify what message could be delivered to gather the attention and the support that is needed for the project to stand long term, which in this case was missed, because the funding was not possible to continue.